Good day to all. Thank you for having me as one of your presenters on the second National Conference on Food Innovation, Empowering Food Systems Through Science, Innovation, and Collaboration. Thank you to the Bicol University and partners for having me as one of your presenters. So my name is Solomon Unhoking. I'll be presenting my paper entitled Effects of Maltodextrin on the Absorption Isotherms and Glass Transition Temperatures of Drum-Dried Soy Sauce Flakes. This study is part of my masteral thesis related to the optimization and technical feasibility of drum-dried soy sauce flakes. Okay, so I'll be presenting a part of my study mainly focus on the effects of maltodextrin. So let me introduce myself. So my name is Solomon Unhoking. Right now, I'm in private sector, part of consultancy, and I'm also teaching in the academe at De La Salle Araneta University. So I'll be one of your presenters for this conference. Thank you. So let us first start with soy sauce. So as a background, uh, as part of my career, um, I started my work as a food technologist in Marcapina. I was a quality assurance and product development analyst at the time that I did this study. So my main focus was to develop and study something related dearly to my heart, which is soy sauce. Since I started my career with formulating, establishing parameters and compliance of soy sauce. So at the time that I decided uh, to think about or incorporate soy sauce in my study, I'm sure that in the succeeding researches, it might still be one of I don't know practical and usable technologies as well as emerging technology that we can use with this product. So I visualize what can we do with soy sauce. So during that time that I think about what I'll be studying. So I came across pancit canton. So typically when we buy pancit canton in supermarkets, sometimes the liquid soy sauce from our pancit canton, no, are spilling because of possible transportation or handling uh, concerns or issues. So that's why I think about what can I do, to develop a new technology but still preserving the flavor, the quality of soy sauce that we love to use in our pancit canton. So typically when we search in the internet, the most common example of powdered soy sauce that we can search is spray dried. So there are several different techniques that are still emerging that we can use, no, in developing other powders or dehydrated materials. So one application or technology that we can use is drum drying. So this was my study. So I have dehydrated the liquid soy sauce, preserving its quality, its flavor, no, as well as its palatability by using drum drying technology. So first, let's establish what is soy sauce. So this is one of the most common materials that we have in our kitchen. So primarily, soy sauce is composed of soybeans, water, wheat flour, salt, no, and it is processed by means of fermentation or acid hydrolysis. So there are different soy sauce available in our market. The one that I have used in my study is the brand that I am well familiar. So today, there are different technological advances in terms of soy sauce. There are less sodium soy sauce, preservative-free soy sauce, premium soy sauce, gluten-free soy sauce, organic soy sauce, tamari soy sauce, dehydrated soy sauce by means of spray drying. So later on, we'll discuss is there any difference between spray drying and drum drying in terms of soy sauce, and there is some differences in terms of its quality and its processing. Okay, so now let's discuss the technology that I have used, which is drum drying. So basically, when you say drum drying, it is still application of heat by means of injecting steam into drums that are superheated. So when the material came across on the surface of the drums, since it is superheated, the material will eventually dry out, and at the end of the rotation of the drum, the material will be scraped off as powders or flakes. So that is why um, this technology is primarily used right now in baby milk formulas or in chocolate or dairy industry. Right now, there are limited uh, materials that utilizes drum drying as a drying uh, technology. So the most often that we see in the market are spray dried materials. Basically, uh, we homogenize the material and spray it and thin mist into the air inside the ano no, the spray dryer. Eventually it will dried out, and when we collect it, it is already in powder. So here in drum drying, anything that we put in the surface of the superheated drum dries out, and after which it will be scraped off as flakes or powders. Okay, so what are the significance of this innovation or study? So primarily, as I mentioned, since liquid soy sauce is transported as is and utilizes into different products, we have some concerns in terms of packaging, transportation, and marketing. Why? In terms of handling liquid soy sauce, since it is liquid, it is heavy. So when we transport these products, we consume a lot of energy, no, in this scenario, in this transportation and handling, as well as packaging, because we use PET bottles and other forms of forms of packaging material, as well as marketing, because soy sauce has been around for hundreds or thousands of years and it's still the same, no, although there are some technological advances, but basically it's still the same soy sauce. As well as we can utilize this as a culinary use. So by using it as a garnish, or using it as a reconstituted liquid, or even in means of presentation, that we can impart the soy sauce flavor and taste, no, in a new way. So in the industry, no, and in my study, so basically the liquid soy sauce is dried out into flakes, no, and some powders, because it breaks down, and this powder or flakes can be restituted into a liquid soy sauce by means of adding water to the flakes or powder. So later on in this study, we will see that how can we combine, and how much water is needed to combine to achieve the same or almost the same quality with the existing soy sauce. At the same time, as I mentioned earlier, it can be beneficial for us, no, to lower transportation costs and to scale up the trade, as well as to um, get another opportunity in terms of economy, that we can sell this into plants, food industry, or food service industries as a new commodity. So as I mentioned, one application that we can use is substituting liquid soy sauce into the packets that, for example, Pancit Canton or other foods that uses liquid soy sauce as a means of uh, ingredient or flavoring. As well as for molecular gastronomy dishes, no, you can use this as a new way of presenting foods, no, that may attract, no, consumers because of this new technology and trend. So for the research paradigm, so for the input, so I have basically uh, the add maltodextrin at certain levels, no, different levels into the liquid soy sauce, and I have established different drum drying parameters, no, for the processing. So or during the process, so I have conducted sensory evaluation, consumer testing, physicochemical testing, water absorption, determination, mathematical modeling, gas transition temperature, thermogravimetric analysis, gas transition temperature, and mathematical modeling for the modeling of the moisture sorption isotherms and gas transition temperatures. So for the output of this study, I have optimized the drum drying conditions and parameters of soy sauce by determining the best or ideal water absorption mathematical model, gas transition temperature mathematical model, and establish processing and product specifications of drum-dried soy sauce flakes. So for the raw material, so since we have used commercially available soy sauce for this study, we have to evaluate its quality if it's complying with the Philippine standard for soy sauce. So there are certain parameters that are established in terms of the Philippine standard for soy sauce, in terms of pH, total soluble solids, percent crude protein, and percent salt content. So we evaluated the sample, the commercially available sample, and some of the parameters of the commercially available soy sauce complies with the Philippine standard for soy sauce, with few slight variances in terms of pH, no, but still for the protein, the salt content, and the TSS are compliant with the FDA guidelines. So now let us discuss what is moisture sorption isotherms and what are the uses of this um, parameter and modeling. So when you say moisture sorption isotherm, basically this is the concentration dehydration process in terms of removal of water in a material. So basically, we see its reaction in terms of dehydrating or absorption or I don't know, absorbing water. What will be its type? So we can easily assess no its behavior based on its material and its processing. So basically, we're determining what moisture content and water activity ratio, as well as its chemical and physical stability with water and uh, water activity. So there are different classification of sorption isotherms. There are type 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So when you say type 1 MSI, we're talking about Langmuir isotherm. So when we evaluate Langmuir isotherm, it possesses a convex upward model. So basically the slope of the uh, isotherm is a convex upward. So we can see that it is a convex shape, but uh, the tail of it is increasing as the water activity increases. The type 2 is a sigmoidal sorption isotherm. Its characteristic is a multi-layer behavior, and it has a concave upwards uh, model. So basically the tail of the of the water activity and moisture content it increases at a certain degree. For the type 3, it's Florey-Huggins isotherms. So basically, it possesses a behavior uh, we observe in plasticized or in solvent absorbing materials. Okay. The type 4 is describes the absorption of soluble hydrophilic solid. So sometimes there are certain materials that are um, limiting absorption capacity, but it reaches saturation point at a certain degree level of water activity and moisture content. So basically, it hydrates to a maximum curve. And lastly, type 5 switches are the more common in food items, and the multilayer absorption isotherm is the BET model, BET curve. It is a Brenner Emmett Teller absorption isotherm curve. So basically, it's I don't know, related to type 2 and type 3. In terms of foods, basically it has the ability of adsorption and absorption based on the ratio of water activity and moisture content at a certain degree. So when we are determining this MSI or moisture sorption isotherms, we use models. So for this study, I have used the Guggenheim-Anderson-de Boer GAB equation model. So basically, we are identifying the monolayer values, the absorption, and the possibility of a multi-layer or monolayer activity in low moisture foods such as powders and flakes. So in this particular model, no, we are determining the stability through the absorption of the material in our soy sauce flakes. Another parameter that are tested in our study is the gas transition temperature. So basically, when you say gas transition temperature, this is the prediction of mechanical performance stability of amorphous semi-crystalline polymers. So since our soy sauce flakes is processed in a higher temperature and it contains carbohydrates such as maltodextrin, uh, affected by its heat, so there are certain chemical reaction that produces crystalline polymer. That is why our powders, no, tends to be in crystalline formation. So in this particular parameter, we are determining the temperature at which the material crystallize at a certain level. Why? Sometimes there are certain materials that behaves differently in a certain temperatures. Some materials, if it's not properly heated, it may not result to a crystalline powder, but rather a sticky substance. So that is why we need to determine the proper temperature as it is to produce the crystalline polymers. So in determining our gas transition temperature, we use DSC thermogram. No, basically we are capturing no the temperature at it is crystallized, and no what temperature the material will melt. No, so this uses calorimetric devices to determine the temperature. So in predicting the glass transition temperature model, we utilize Gordon-Taylor model. So in this particular equation, the prediction of glass transition temperatures in a miscible polymer diluent can be described in this equation. So basically, no, we are predicting the plasticization of water carbohydrate and water protein present in soy sauce. So we are determining its behavior, no, in the at certain temperature using this equation. So you are also utilizing thermogravimetric differential thermal analysis, no, in determining the gas transition temperatures. So in this particular analysis, it uses temperature differences to determine the behavior of the material in terms of its crystallization and melting temperatures. Okay, so for the methodology, so we utilize the soy sauce and added maltodextrin at certain percentages. A ratio of 1 is to 0.5. One ratio of soy sauce is to 0.5 ratio of maltodextrin. 1 is to 0.75, 1 is to 1, 1 is to 1.25, and 1 is to 1.5. So as we can see, we have established different ratios to determine the effect of maltodextrin. So for this particular study, we use a pilot scale double drum dryer from Gouda, Netherlands, no, yung ano no, available unit at DOST ITPI. So this is the ano no, the photo of the drum dryer, double drum dryer that used no in this particular study. So this is a I think Andritz model, no, double drum dryer. Okay, so as you can see on the right portion of the photo, you can see that after it adheres to the ano no superheated drum, the material crystallized into a sheet of flakes that are eventually crushed no to produce soy sauce flakes. So pag lumabas kasi siya dun sa drum dryer kasi buo-buo siya. But it still depend on the the formulation. So as you can see on the photos, different formulations yield to different results. There are certain behaviors, for example, color, the intensity of caramelization, no, even the the sensory characteristics of the drum dried soy sauce flakes varies in terms of formulation and processing temperature. So at the end of the experimentation, so as you can see no, ito yung itsura nung soy sauce flakes. So ano siya no, basically the soy sauce with addition of maltodextrin crystallized and kung ano yung volatile materials, salt content, protein and other materials are absorbed by the maltodextrin. So once it is heated and processed with the double drum dryer. Okay? So now we will test the materials and see what are the different parameters and prediction models based on the evaluation of the samples. So in terms of determining the MSI, so we have we have to determine the sample's behavior, the moisture sorption cytotherm, by exposing the material into different water activity. So I have a simple simple setup as described by by Wink's model of determining the MSI. So basically a 2-gram sample of the soy sauce flakes are exposed in different relative humidities from 11 to 90% or 0.11 to 0.90 by different saturated salt solution. Okay? So daily I have weighed the sample in order to predict its MSI. So these are the different water activity and temperature that are utilized in this study. So from 15, 30, and 45 in degrees Celsius temperature and different salt solution yields to different water activity in the sample. So for the for modeling the MSI, so we utilize the GAB equation modeling to determine the monolayer or multilayer present in our samples. So for the for the gas transition naman, we use differential scanning calorimetry. So the samples was tested at Admatel at DOST, no. So basically, this is a setup determining the different temperatures, and it is being read by the machine now to determine the ano no that the crystallization and melting of the samples. Okay? Ito naman yung machine that used for the ano no, the glass transition temperatures, also thermogravimetric differential thermal analysis, or TGDTA. Okay? So for the modeling of the ano, glass transition temperature, we utilize the Gordon-Taylor equation, determining the polymer, diluent, weight fraction, and empirical factor of the material. Okay, so these are the resulting products from the different formulations. So from soy sauce, 1 is to 0.5, 1 is to 0.75, 1 is to 1, 1 is to 1.25, and 1 is to 1.5. Okay, so these are the results of the modeling for the MSI. So for the MSI, it shows a type 5, no, with similarities of type 3 MSI model, no, at 15 degrees Celsius, 30 and 45. So as you can see, no, yung trend naman niya pumasok naman sa type 3 and type 5 ng MSI. Okay? For the DSC sa ano no sa glass transition temperatures, no, medyo naging erratic yung ano no, yung pag-read yung ano glass transition temperature. Ang explanation sa atin no, which is supported by the ano thermogravimetric analysis, because of the volatility na meron doon sa soy sauce, nagkaroon din ng effect doon sa reading ng temperature. So as you can see, the first and the second heating indicates the temperatures, no, of the materials at is determine the crystallization and melting temperature. Okay, so this is the result of the ano no thermogravimetric differential thermal analysis. As I mentioned earlier, there are some limitations on the machine because of its volatility. So after the DSC, it was suggested to perform DTA to determine why is it affecting the ano the results of the DEC. It shows that um, the soy sauce flakes contains high volatile matter. No, as you can see on the table, no, as we increase the ano no the the composition or the ratio of maltodextrin, the volatility also increases. So it is related to the capacity of maltodextrin, no, to protect increased ano no to ano no to encapsulate the volatile matters present at in the soy sauce. So as we all know that soy sauce contains ano no volatile matters, no, contains aromatic substances, no, because of its flavors, no, its chemical composition. So nakikita natin na ano no once na encapsulate yung ating soy sauce, no, na encapsulate ng maltodextrin yung volatile, yung lasa at yung amoy ng ating soy sauce, which is seen dito sa ano sa ating ano no, table sa highly volatile matter, medium volatile matter, and combustible matter. Nakikita natin na nag-i-increase no yung composition na yan habang tumataas din yung composition ng maltodextrin natin. Nakikita naman natin siya kabaliktaran naman sa residual. No? Yung residue kasi, we're talking about salt, minerals present in our material. As you can see, as the maltodextrin increases, the residue decreases because of dilution. Kasi nababawasan kasi yung composition ng salt. Siyempre, tumatabang yan no? Dahil dumadami yung maltodextrin doon sa ating material. So nakikita natin na pag nag-increase, no, napoprotektahan or na-encapsulate ng maltodextrin yung volatile material, but no, there are certain changes naman din doon sa residual, no, that may affect yung salt content or yung mineral as well as protein ng ating materials. No. So nakita natin dun sa second table, nakita din natin na as the ano no soy sauce and the maltodextrin increases, nakikita natin yung temperature, no, na requirement, no, doon sa volatile materials ay tumataas din. Nakita natin, no, as it increases, the temperature also increases in terms of its degradation. Nakita natin sa combustion ng ating material, it also increases because of the presence of carbohydrate in sa ating maltodextrin. So ito naman yung result ng ating DTA sa endothermic peak of damp-dried soy sauce flakes. Nakita natin kanina dun sa DSC scan na na nagpi-peak, no, yung ating material na na crystallize siya at 131 and nalulusaw naman siya, no, nasusunog naman siya at 588, no. So nakikita natin na as the maltodextrin increases, no, tumataas din yung temperature of crystallization natin as well as yung temperature, no, na nasusunog na yung ating material. So nakita natin na ito yung effect kasi ng maltodextrin, no, yung encapsulation function talaga ng maltodextrin na napoprotektahan niya yung volatile materials na meron doon sa materials natin. Okay? For the gas transition model, so we fitted the temperatures in our Gordon-Taylor model. So nakita natin na as the maltodextrin increases in our formulation, the temperature needed, no, to crystallize, no, yung ating material also increases, no. So coming from 125.13 degrees Celsius from 1 is to 0.5 increases to 152.79 sa 1 is to 1.5. Okay? So ito nakikita natin na although nakita natin na medyo maliit lang naman yung differences niya, no, may effect pa rin naman doon sa resulting product natin in terms of sensory and in terms of physicochemical testing ng ating resulting products. Okay? So, at this part, so as I mentioned nga doon sa aking introduction kanina, yung aking study kasi ay part lang ng aking full study, no. It composes around 4 different parts. So, this part lang doon sa part lang na siya ng determination ng stability. So, this part naman, we're talking about naman yung evaluation of differences naman siya. So, at a glance, no, ang nakita natin na pinakamalapit, no, doon sa characteristics ng liquid soy sauce is yung soy sauce flakes at 1 is to 0.75, no, in terms of its sensory characteristics, physicochemical and other parameters. Yun yung pinaka malapit, no, nakita natin when reconstituted yung ating powder. So at this point, pagko-compare natin yung commercial available soy sauce, yung ating soy sauce flakes, at yung soy sauce powder na available, no, sa market. Ayan. So ito yung itsura ng reconstituted na na soy sauce. So basically yung color, yung amoy, yung lasa, lahat naman nandoon pa rin siya. May slight changes lang talaga na because of dilution and as well as yung since it undergo high temperature processing, no. So nakita natin na may mga effect din naman yung yung processing as well as yung material na maltodextrin dun sa quality ng ating resulting products. Okay? So ito yung itsura ng nag-reconstitute tayo ng soy sauce powder and soy sauce flakes. So this is just a simple comparative cost analysis, no. Nakita natin na may mga may mga similarities and malapit naman yung in terms of physicochemical, no, in terms of protein, salt, ang pinakamalapit naman is yung 1.5 na concentration ng maltodextrin. No, kasi yung commercial available is 4.75 for example sa crude protein. Sa spray dry is 4.28. Yung 1 is to 1.5 na soy sauce flakes is 4.32. So mas malapit siya, no. Pero yun nga, in terms of sensory evaluation, yung 0.75% na maltodextrin yung mas malapit naman yung sa lasa, no, compared dun sa no. Pero in terms of salt and protein, no, malapit naman yung 1:1.5. In terms of cost, no, kita natin, syempre, hindi pa naman commercialize itong study, no. This is a small scale trial. Yung cost of its production is medyo mataas pa. Hindi pa naman siya commercially viable. Pero nakita naman natin na in terms of quality, it can be, no, comparable sa spray dried soy sauce for ano no for recommendation sa future study na pwede ni-explore yung commercialization. Okay? So that's it, no? So hopefully some you are inspired to do something na makakatulong sa ating sa ating industry. So this study is one I hope no na makukuha natin ng ideas as well as to to explore other materials that we can utilize no and study in terms of stability and kasama rin din yung pag-establish ng parameters. So again, thank you for inviting me. No, if in case meron tayong gustong i-clarify or questions, you can email me no or ask the organizers na lang for my contact information. Again, thank you for inviting me in on this conference, and I'd like to thank the organizers and the Bicol University for this opportunity to share my study. Thank you.